Hey everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new, or welcome back if you're not. So for today's video we're going to be testing out two contour palettes against each other. I have the NYX powder contour palette and then the Makeup Revolution dupe. So the NYX Highlight and Contour Pro palette retails for $25.25 on the Boots website, that's in euro. And the Makeup Revolution Iconic Lights and Contour Pro palette retails for $11.21 on the Makeup Revolution website, which is now the ChristineMUA website, I think is what they're called now. So there is a bit of a price difference. This one is just under half the price of this one, but there is also a size difference, as you can see. The Makeup Revolution, you get 13 grams of product, and in the NYX palette you get 26 grams of product. So you get just over half the product in the Makeup Revolution, even though it's just under half the price. So obviously this one was made to be a dupe for the NYX palette. The shades are extremely similar. I have swatches and everything, and they will be on my blog, and I will have a link to that down in the description down below. But for right now I'm going to be testing them side by side on the face. I did already test them on the eyes as eyeshadows to see if I could see any difference while I was doing my makeup. And to be honest, there was very minimal difference. The only kind of very slight difference was like the kind of slight shade difference where they didn't get them exactly dead on. And even that was like looking close up in the mirror and going side to side, but other than that, you literally wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But that was just testing them in a small area, so we're going to see what they're like to actually contour and highlight with. So the brushes that I'm going to be using to test, I'm going to use the MAC 168 angle brush actually for the matte highlight testing. I'm going to use the Blank Canvas F28 for the shimmer highlight testing. And then for the actual contour shades, I'm going to use two separate Real Techniques blush brushes. Because number one, I actually like to contour with this kind of brush, something that is slightly fluffy but also tapered so that it's a little bit smaller on the top. And also because I have two of it, I can make sure that there's no cross-contamination between the palettes or anything. So I'll be using those for the contour shades. And if you're wondering what my lip is, it is the NYX Liquid Suede Cream Lipstick in the shade Oh Put It On, which I'm really feeling. I'm liking the kind of vampy look today. And if you're interested in any of the other products I have on my face, I'll have a list of those on the blog post, which will be linked down below again. And oh, and just before we jump into it, I am trying out a new setup and lighting situation. I got new lights, so I have like a ring light and two LED panels. If you're interested, I'll have the link to them down below. And I'm also filming in a slightly different area of my makeup studio, so the background is a bit different. So let me know what to think, if you like it or not. Personally, I'm loving it so far anyway. So anyway, with all of that said, let's jump into the testing. So I am going to start off with the cheek contour, kind of the main contouring area for most people. And I'm going to use the two shades that I normally use from the NYX palette. I use this warmer shade, which is Tan, and then I use this darker shade, which is Hollow. So I first kind of do this and blend it out a bit more, so it's more like a bronzer effect. And then I'll go in with a little bit of the Hollow and just kind of sculpt it out. So we'll do that on this side with one of the Real Techniques blush brushes. My eyes aren't used to just looking into like a big ring light and then lights on the side, so I can't really see properly in the mirror. Well, I can see, but like I can also see like this kind of red and green cast. So I may be going a little bit heavy. That's okay, I want to be able to see what we're doing, what we're working with. Okay, I'm going to go in with a little bit of the Hollow now, and I'm going to keep that a little bit more precise. So that is the NYX side with Tan and Hollow, and then I'll use the corresponding shades of the Makeup Revolution palette on our clean brush. So that's just the Tan shade, and then I'll go in with a little bit of the darker shade. So that is both of them side by side. I'm not sure how it's showing up on camera. I felt like I had to use a little bit more product with the Makeup Revolution, but very, very slightly. There wasn't a huge amount of difference, but I was really, really happy with and surprised with how well the Makeup Revolution was blending. It's super smooth. Like, I think it might be slightly smoother than the NYX, but I think the NYX might have slightly more pigment. But like, it looks really, really good and similar. Okay, so I'm just going to give those brushes just a dry wipe onto some kitchen paper just to get like the excess product off. And then, what do we do next? Okay, then I'm going to take some of the lighter, slightly pinkier shade. This is Toffee, and we'll pop that along the jawline. I never do a huge amount on my jawline anyway. I'll try and build it up a little bit more than usual so you can kind of see it a bit better. So I don't know how much of that you're going to be able to see. But again, very little difference. Only difference would be slightly. The Makeup Revolution one is just a little bit pinker, but only very slightly. Okay, so now we'll contour the hairline and we'll go into the final contour shade that we haven't used, and this is Sculpt. And then again, the corresponding shade from Makeup Revolution. So again, very little difference. I think maybe the Sculpt shade from the NYX palette is a little bit warmer, a little bit slightly more pinky, not quite pink, but that kind of undertone. I think the corresponding one in the Makeup Revolution is just a slight bit cooler. Again, I found myself picking up a little bit more product with the Makeup Revolution one, but I am kind of wondering about the difference between these brushes. Even though it's the same brush, I think they changed it slightly from this older one to this newer one. This one does seem a little bit fluffier, and I'm wondering, is it because it's less dense? Is it just applying just a much softer application, or a little bit of a softer application? But it's not a huge difference, it's just a little bit fluffier and yeah, less dense. But either way, the difference again is very minimal and it blended beautifully. So now we're going to test the matte highlights, and I'm first going to take the yellowy shade one, which is Cream, the shade Cream. And we're going to use that under the contour to clean up and bake a little bit. So I'm going to take it on a little wedge sponge and just use the edge of that to create a sharper line under the contour. To the corner of the mouth. And then I'll also fill in under that line. And we'll see what that does. So I'm going to use a clean edge and take the yellow shade from the Makeup Revolution. There does seem to be more kickback in the palette from the Makeup Revolution side. It's probably just showing up now because I'm using a sponge and actually rubbing it into the product. But kickback meaning like bits of kind of dustiness from the product on the palette. So like it's slightly more powdery. And I can see a colour difference here. This one is much more yellow, this is more creamier, but it's a lighter yellow. So we'll leave that on for the moment and we'll move to the lighter matte highlight, and this is in the shade Soft Light. So we're going to take that on the MAC 168. It's like a fluffy angled brush, quite nice. So we're going to go like kind of under the eye down to the cheek and up onto the cheekbone. use this, I actually really like it. I don't use it enough. It just brightens that area and mattifies it. So I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but that gives a beautiful, it kind of gives like a soft focus effect because it's just mattifying it and brightening it. And I think the name suits it really well, soft light. It does give that softening effect and brightening. So I'm just going to have to give this a wipe off on some kitchen paper and just get off any excess product. I didn't use a whole ton of it and I did get it right into the bristles, so we're just going to wipe that off and go into the Makeup Revolution. Okay, I'm seeing a difference here in application. What? That's so weird. It's like this one was so smooth over the foundation. Didn't disturb anything underneath. For some reason this is disturbing foundation underneath, which is annoying. So this one is also brightening and mattifying, but it's just not giving me that soft focus effect that I was talking about over here. And I'll have to do a close-up, but it like slightly moved my foundation underneath and there's bits where it's kind of rubbed. So that's interesting. That's obviously a difference in the formula. This one, even though like I was really impressed with how smooth and silky the Makeup Revolution is, even like to the touch, the Makeup Revolution actually, does it seem more silky? More if not the same amount of smoothness and silkiness. So I'm surprised that it did that it didn't glide over as well as the NYX. But there you go. So let's move on to a bit of shimmer. So the outer two highlights are shimmer. This one is much more of a white. This one is like a peachy kind of cream color. So we're going to use this one, and that is Nectar. And I'm just going to use that on the tops of the cheekbones, more at the back, because I want you to be able to see the difference here in the front. Let me just bring it up around the temple as well. So again, I don't have the same brush as this, so I'm just going to give it a wipe off, but I'm also going to flip it over and use it on the other side because I'm not picking up my product on the tip, I'm kind of using the side or the side of the tip. I'm seeing a difference here as well. So although the shade is very similar and it is a beautiful highlight, as you can see it's picking up the light very well. Again, you'll see in close-ups, but this one is coming out more bitty. This one is just a smoother texture, but this one I can just see like little flecks of shimmer. Okay, so we're next going to test out this white shimmer highlight, which is in the shade Ice Queen. And how would we test this? I still need to highlight the nose in Cupid's bow. So let's maybe we'll take a smaller brush. This is the Morphe M433 shadow brush. It's like a pinched kind of crease brush. So I'm first going to take the NYX shade. I'm just going to take it on the tip, and I'm just going to highlight the tip of the nose. And then also blend up about halfway. This might be a bit more of an intense nose highlight because I kind of want to see the product a bit more. Alright, and then I'm going to wipe off that brush again. Give it a good wipe off. And I'm going to take the corresponding shade of Makeup Revolution. And I'm going to use that to highlight. We'll highlight the rest of the nose with that. Okay, that seemed to come out more intense. And again, a little bit more frosty. Not quite as smooth. Oh, and we'll do a nose contour as well. I don't know how I didn't think of that when I was doing the contour. We'll have to do a nose contour as well. And then I'll also just take that the Makeup Revolution one and just go on the Cupid's bow. It's just that little bit more intense and that little bit more frosty, I would say. Kind of like using like a shimmery white eyeshadow, which you can absolutely do for like highlights. You can use shadows for highlights and stuff, but there does tend to be a slight texture difference. The highlights that are made to be used in large areas tend to be a little bit smoother and not as bitty, not as frosty, the good quality ones anyway. But again, like, the highlight still looks beautiful. It's just when you're comparing them close up, there is that slight texture difference. Okay, so let's brush away this yellow powder. I'm just going to use the powder brush that I used to set my face today, which is the Real Techniques powder brush, which again I feel like changed when I got a newer set of kind of my favourite Real Techniques brushes, and this was one of them. And again, I feel like it's less dense, and what I loved about it was how big and dense it was. So that's disappointing. Okay, difference in brushing it away. This one brushed away a lot easier and may have taken some of my coverage underneath with it. This one definitely keeping the coverage, and it's kept that sharper line. I don't know if you can see a difference. This one has kept that sharpness, whereas this one has really just buffed away, and I think may have kind of disturbed some of the foundation under it, or setting powder under it at least. So that would lead me to believe that the NYX one would wear longer. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do a wear test today, so I can't like wear it for the day and check back. But that alone, the fact that we let that sit there for a while and this one has just really baked in and clung on that bit more, whereas this, you're just able to swipe it away even after the same length of time, that would make me feel like this one would just last that bit more. But it might only be a slight difference because you're not going to be kind of brushing away products throughout the day or anything, or you shouldn't be. That is interesting that you can see that difference. So as I said, we'll do a nose contour. So I'm actually going to use that brush that I used for the nose highlight. I'm just going to give it a good dust off so I'm not putting any shimmer. And we'll use the shade that we used for the Jawline, because that one's the kind of the hardest to see. So again, that was this slightly pinkier one, and that is Toffee. So I'll use it on the tip of the brush again. Okay, so that's one side. Again, giving it a good clean off until nothing is coming off the brush. And we'll take the corresponding shade in the Makeup Revolution. So interestingly, I feel like I didn't need as much product with the Makeup Revolution one for a nose contour. And I kind of felt that way, I think it was actually with the same shade when I was doing the eyes. I used it for a transition colour, and I just felt like I was getting a little bit more pigment with the Revolution. So either it's just that shade, or it's the fact that we're using it in with a small brush, so it's more kind of precise and dense. So I'm just taking my powder brush, I'm just going to soften both sides. So that makes me feel like, again, with, as I was saying, with the shimmer shades, it's more of like an eyeshadow formula, which again you can definitely use shadows for contouring and nose contouring and stuff, but they don't tend to be as soft, because on the eyes you want that colour to show up that bit more, but with the face you tend to want to be able to kind of control it and build it up. So that can be a good thing or a bad thing if there's more pigment in something when it comes to face products. So I think that's it for applying the products to the face. I'll give you a close-up, I'll come up close there so you can see, get a better idea of the difference. Okay, so I'm up close and personal with the camera, and I've just turned the ring light down a bit so you can see a bit better. So this is the Makeup Revolution side. And I'm not sure if you can see here what I was talking about, but I can see like little kind of specks where the foundation was moved. And it kind of disturbed what was underneath with that matte highlight. Whereas on this side, it looks a lot smoother. So I don't know if you can see the difference, the matte highlight anyway. And then for the shimmer highlight, not sure if you can see that. And then this is the other side. So again, I felt like this shimmer was just smoother and more glowy, whereas this one was a bit frostier. Same with the nose highlight, but I'm not sure how well you can see that on camera. You could definitely see it when applying that the Makeup Revolution was just frostier and more intense and more like a shadow. And then again, you can see that that powder kept that clean line and kept that bit of coverage. Whereas here, I felt like it's not as clean and it took away some of the coverage. This is the rest of the NYX side. So in conclusion, I think that the Makeup Revolution palette is a lovely, more affordable. It is quite close, especially with the actual darker contour shades. I felt like they were closer than the highlight shades. But for me, the highlight shades is where you could really see the difference. Albeit slight differences and differences that mightn't mean a huge amount to some other people, but for me, I could see the difference. I like certain things in products. But with the shimmer shades on the NYX side, it was just that bit more soft, and then on the Makeup Revolution side, it was a bit more frosty, which you may prefer. And then with the matte shades, the NYX side was a lot more smooth and it didn't remove any coverage, it didn't touch anything underneath. Whereas with the Makeup Revolution side, it wasn't as smooth and it did disturb the product underneath, both when I was brushing on and also when I was brushing away the kind of the baking. And that's something that is important to me. I hate when products touch my coverage. I find that with setting powders a lot of setting powders, even if I'm pressing them on, they'll disturb my foundation and they kind of take away coverage and it wrecks my head. So I love the fact that these NYX matte highlights are super smooth and don't disturb anything underneath. And also we saw with the matte yellow shade when we were doing that baking, this stayed on, whereas this brushed away super easy. So again, as I said, maybe it's just that shade, but it would appear that this one would be a little bit more long wearing since it's kind of staying on the skin that bit better. So if you're not a coverage freak like I am, like I just want full coverage all the time, every day. If you're not like me and you don't notice that problem with things moving coverage and disturbing things underneath, if you don't mind a slight bit more of a bitty shimmer highlight, or if in fact you're just more interested in the actual contour shades, then I think this is a fantastic option. As I said at the beginning, it's less than half the price of the NYX and you are getting slightly over half the amount of product. And another pro for this is its size. It's quite neat and compact for traveling and storing. So that is a lovely little affordable palette. I would recommend it if you're on a little bit more of a budget, or if you're just getting into contouring and experimenting, or again, as I say, if you're only interested in the darker contour shades. And then for the NYX, I would recommend it if you are like me and you're a little bit more picky with your products. And if you're also interested in the highlighting shades as much as you are the contour shades. It is bigger in size for like traveling and storage and stuff, but a pro for this is that the pans are actually refillable. And that's fantastic because like with a contour palette like this, you'll generally kind of have your favorites. Like with me, it's these two contours and this highlight. So you'll tend to go through certain colors quicker. So it's great that you can just refill those colors. You don't have to go out and buy a whole new palette. Whereas with this one, if you do kind of go through one or two colors, you'll have to repurchase the palette. But with the NYX, I do believe that the little refills come in different shades. I'll have to look into this and I'll have that information on my blog. But I do believe that there are more shades in this, so you can switch it out if you wanted something slightly different. So for me, even though it's bigger, that is a huge bonus to the packaging. And again, that would be more for someone who's really into their makeup and is a bit more picky with their shades and products and formulas and stuff. So is the Makeup Revolution contour palette a dupe for the NYX contour palette? Nearly, but not quite there, as is the case with a lot of dupes. If you're going for something cheaper, Even though the colour might be the same, the formulas tend to be different, and for me that does matter a huge amount, because even though you're paying a bit more, you're paying for better quality. So that is it from me for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up by clicking the like button that's down below, and also subscribe if you'd like. I'd love to have you on board. Thanks again so much, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.